Hey, this is Katie Oshimanita with Harmonizing Journey to Realignment Seminar and Sessions. Seminar sessions and HDR Grid Keepers community, which I will be talking about all three of them later on. I just wanted to make sure you know that if you like my content and feel in alignment, you're more than welcome to join the community and as well as do private sessions. And I'm getting different classes going as well. Okay, so Evolution of the Soul Part 8 and HDR Insight. I don't know if this is the last one as yet, but I got part of what I originally had wanted to do when I was thinking about doing the Evolution of the Soul. There was this segment that I kept going, okay, I'm going to do it this time, but then a whole bunch of other stuff. No, I can't do that yet till I get this done. So I finally got it done of about the sentient soul, mind soul, and the consciousness soul. So I finally got that in, but we'll see after that what I'm inspired to do. Okay, so we, as the all that is, Ah-yah A'ya, the thinker, the creator, the great spirit, are expressing as a 12th dimensional Mahoric avatar in a density 1 human body of this current Ecka-Veca time matrix. As an eternal being, we take on many hats of expression. In each hat or dimensional expression, we put ourselves in different energetic yoga-like poses. In those poses, expressions, or reality constructs, we take on the qualities and character of the light-body world we created to play in. And it doesn't make it not real reality. I mean, however you want to define that, it's still, we create it, therefore it's real. But it doesn't mean it's rock bottom solid. We have to hold on to it for all eternity. It's like when okay. So it's like when you paint or sculpture or sculpt. You have, and this is again, as the creator, you have a general idea of what you want to create that follows basic mathematical alignments, and you allow your creative juices to flow. The end result may completely be different from what you thought it would be, right? This new creation might lead you down a new path of expansive expression, yet sometimes these new paths can lead you down treacherous paths as you learn new ways of seeing things. These new paths can alter or change your whole frame of reference, to which you might at times get lost down a dark alleyway of phantom matrix that is only a reflection of the world you once loved. You had been so self-absorbed in your creations that you forgot how these creations fit into the whole of creation. There is where we are in our travels. So this is where we are in our travels of creation. We have had periods of significant expansion and periods of great decadence. We have become so wrapped up in the journey that we have in our thoughts become the light body creation that we created. We have been living not by first creation mechanics, but by the illusion of second creation finite tube torus mechanics. The luciferic and harmonic impulses in the second creation construct have an organic root in first creation. Everything comes from first creation. It just can get blurred up in the light body structure. So they've become decadent and obsolete in the current era of evolution, making them dangerous and dysfunctional. Steiner talks about that a lot in his work. The density harmonic universe 2, right, is our soul level or angelic realm of our Mahoric D12 avatar self. We entered into density H2, and again, previous evolution of souls talked about this, as well as Cheonic science mechanics. So we entered into density 1, HU1, on the leading edge of creation to experience an entirely new reality construct. Like the artist, we followed a basic first creation mathematical Christic mechanics. For a while, we had a great time exploring new avenues of expression. Many were harmless, but a few were pushing the boundaries of the nature of first creation mechanics, which eventually triggered an ancient glitch in the matrix. That's all I can say what it is. I've just seen it intuitively, but in inner vision. This led to the creation of second creation finite mechanics, which is embedded within the light body mechanics themselves, or in original sin. This new mechanics caused a ripple throughout all of the time matrices of the universe. I'll make sure. Okay. Hopefully I'm recording myself. I'm still getting used to my new little show. And hopefully you're not hearing my fan. Hopefully I'm not gonna have to re-record this because of my fan, but it's very hot. All right. As I have referenced in the second evolution of the Soul series, we move through spiraling cycles of evolution, commonly known as epochs. According to esoteric Christianity, we are in our fifth post-Atlantean epoch. Each period, with its corresponding eras or civilizations, developed both the physical form and the soul's ability to interact with the body, enabling it to become an enlightened being again. And I'm still really touching the surface of esoteric Christianity. But again, just enough to see, okay, this is basic of that science. This is the original organic and how they interplay, just to give that esoteric Christianity its original organic root back again. It's my whole purpose with what I've been doing with the evolution, or part of what I've been doing with the evolution of the Soul series. Okay. We are in the process literally right now of embodying a new light body structure as the older structure disintegrates into the phantom matrix. It is essential to recognize as we navigate this transition that we are evolving into a freedom spirit I within the time matrix. The evolution of the astral soul of the human earth form, post-Atlantean epoch of the freedom spirits, I am this I am, I. It would be the spirit ego, would be another way of saying the spiritual I. In the Cheonic science, ego is epigenetic, what's the way? Every density plane, I think even each density dimensional plane has some form of I, but for sure the density plane itself, 3 densities together, creating a sphere, radial body, has an ego connected to it. So we have our density 1 root, basically root chakra, sacral, solar plexus, I, that we've been connected more to the sentient soul. And then we've been involved with the esoteric Christianity as well as our thankfully Cheonic science. We can now start with our angelic realm of our harmonic density 2, developing our or spirit I. Because once we get through the barrier here of the net earth of our root base ego, we can then open up to all the different levels of dimensionality when we make it into density 2. We're much more open to the rest, traditionally. The sentient soul evolves to greater expression through each developmental epoch and its corresponding eras. We will focus primarily on the post-Atlantean epoch, or also the term Aryan is used. I think both by Steiner and Ayesha actually, are the guardian lines, use the term Aryan, which corresponds, which is not what the Germans and all that crap go with the Aryans, but they probably got some knowledge, ancient knowledge from that, but it's not what we think of from that perspective, what Aryan is, which corresponds to the emergence of Hellenic. Okay, so maybe I should read that. We will focus primarily on the post-Atlantean epoch, Aryan, which corresponds to the emergence of Hellenic science within the third seeding, spanning 750,000 to 70,000 years ago by the Urtite Lemanians and the Entrianians, proceeding to Voyagers, Volume 2, page 56. Definitely remember, obviously, with doing this series, you really want to also have their book, the Voyagers 1 and 2. It's highly recommended, very worth the investment. The Urtite races of seeding 3 would have been considered the gods of the later post-Atlantean epoch. At least that's what I kind of figure. Some of these gods are the also would be considered the especially during the Greek era, but probably some Greek as well. The Anunnaki and the Draco gods as well. We have those lineages here as well. The okay, so the Melchizedek. All right, just reminding that the Melchizedek were a strain, I guess you could say, of the Anunnaki and the Elohim to host for this during the third seed and the current seeding, to be able to reassemble or align and integrate the full 12-strand DNA package that the angelic humans came in. So they're special, okay? They're, but they do have problems. But anyway, so the Melchizedek, for the most part, in our current literature, refers to the third seeding Melchizedek. Steiner, I feel like, in my assessment, I could be wrong. I'm willing to admit I'm wrong if somebody can come up with information that counters this. But for the most part, I feel like when Steiner references humanity, he's really referencing the Melchizedek line, which were predominant in Atlantis. And probably, well, predominant in Atlantis. Well, Lemuria, Atlantis, but definitely evolved initially in Atlantis. And then went on to go through the current post-Atlantean eras. There is a reference to, with Steiner, there is a reference to the actual angelic human during the Lemurian and Atlantean periods by Steiner as more advanced beings that came in to teach the newly evolving humans. But he doesn't elaborate much on them, and I can't remember exact wording, but I had a feeling he wasn't able to. There was something holding him back, I think, as far as the controlling system at the time of the information he got some of this from. We're not allowing him. That's just a feeling I get. There's no absolute proof of that. It was not allowing him to do it. It's kind of what he was allowed to say, really. But for the most part, most of the actual pure-blood angelic humans went underground at various periods in history as the Melchizedek became infiltrated by their Anunnaki forefathers, who took them over to follow. Well, they kind of took over the bodies. Took them over, or many of them took them over, or just controlled them. To follow not the law of one, right? Because the Melchizedek third seeding group came in with the explicit understanding they were to follow the law of one teachings. That's basically Hellenic science. And this got violated. And they took in for a male-dominant, hierarchical, fallen angelic system, kind of where we get the term toxic masculinity from. That's kind of actually a real thing, but probably gets overused way too much. But there is a root to it that's organic. an example, unfortunately, it's an example that stands out the most, but okay, is for those who feel bad, but it is truth. I do feel it's truth, though. It's something that needs to be kind of mindfully looked at. For those who follow the Jehovah, Jehovah is an Anunnaki deity. All right. Yahweh is an Anunnaki deity. Yahweh in particular was actually part of a guardian hosting thing that occurred back in the day. Aisha does have a very good video that she did a long time ago, kind of talking about the fall of basically the Anunnaki, Jehovah, Giovanni matrix. So anyone who follows Jehovah and thinks he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, you're following an Anunnaki deity. And Yahweh's with it, because Steiner will go in between Jehovah and Yahweh as being basically kind of the same thing. He lumps the Elohim with it, which we do have the Elohim, so it's still part of that collective, which branched off the original Ah-yah Elohim. Just a reminder on that. For those that haven't been following me, there is actually an Ah-yah Elohim as part of the primal light sound fields of the Rishi collective of dimensions 13, 14, and 15. But I have a feeling predominantly Steiner's probably referencing the Anna Elohim, which maybe probably also has mixtures of the actual organic Elohim, but I don't know for sure what's what at this point when I look at Steiner's information. But yes, so the Jehovah Yahweh entity of the Jewish faith is that they are fallen, because Anunnaki are compromised, fallen religion that was initially, because they're all have an organic root, initially based on the angelic human Hibiru, Hibiru, Law of One teachings. This is probably part of what the Khazarian Mafia followed Judaism, because they're following the fall and compromise, because they are fallen and compromised. Right, they're fallen and compromised. Okay. They're the black hats, the I can't remember what else anyway, y'all know. But there is still many truths in the religion due to its Hebrew, I'd say probably more accurately, Hebrew roots, which were actually an angelic tribe. There was originally 12 angelic tribes, which I've talked at other times about. Might do even more in depth now that I'm getting this stuff finally done. Also, again, and again, also not to say that that the Ana Elohim from which the Anunnaki came do not have knowledge to give to humanity, especially with the fact that we have a lot of our lineage, our DNA, our connection here to this planet has that. And again, they were part of the original Ah-yah Elohim. And there's a lot that they've learned, I think, over many millennia of do's and don'ts. And I think there's a lot that are posting and doing work to re-evolve back into, again, the animal Melchizedek's, in Melchizedek lineage. I think there are still ones that are holding tight. They may have had themselves to go underground. They had to probably hide out, but I think there are many that have held their integrity. Just want to make sure I say that. Where was I? Okay. Yeah. So I am also not saying that because someone follows the Jewish faith that they are compromised or fallen or should be treated disrespectfully. I'm not okay with all that Hamas crap and all the stuff that's going. I'm so not with that. But anyway, treated disrespectfully, like a lot of people are doing right now. This is so unbelievably uncool. All the religions at this point have become compromised to run the Anno Draco fallen angelic male dominant bloodline male toxicity program. They all kind of have it intermixed in there. They've got things that are not accurate. They've got a lot of organic truths because all the original religions, ancient beginnings, were to wake us and evolve us back up, right? Because I've talked again about the transplants and all that different things. And I'm going to be talking more about how the soul evolves and the humans and body's been evolving. Different religions during different time periods had their place. Each religion can once again become its own organic law of one teachings. Steiner speaks of how throughout time, I'm repeating myself, throughout time, each religion had its place in the evolution of man. But as man evolves, his I grows out of a particular religion, growing out of it, evolving out of its time, then that religion can become decadent. And right now, Christianity is actually going in the process of going through that. I think that there's going to be different sects or different groups that are going to just die off, like the Catholic Church in particular. Probably most of the denominational ones are probably going to die off. A lot of the non-denominationals will probably come up, still holding the organics, but yeah. And of course, Keylonic science, please. Not that Keylonic science is a religion, it's a science, it's spiritual science. I have a lot of respect for Steiner with his anthroposophy, as well, I think. But it's going through its growing pains as well. And I will note, because I always like to sort of add, a lot of what I say is my reiteration or perspective of what Ah-yah says and what Steiner says, but this is kind of my, when I say note, my twist. Okay, so we are for the most part angelic humans incarnating in the animal Melchizedek biology to live on the surface of Earth. I think there's still a lot of angelic humans that are in Earth. I think you have some still on the surface, but most part, we're utilizing the animal Melchizedek biology. It stayed on the surface and evolved on the surface. And again, not to say today that the biology that we are walking around in is pure animal Melchizedek. There has been considerable intermixing of race lines over the years, keeping in mind that the animal Melchizedek were seeded with the 12-stranded capability, combining the angelic human with the animal Melchizedek coding probably is our salvation as humans to ascend at this point, but also causes a lot of distortions to work through as well. My body tells me all the time, right? I don't know, that's just coming in my mind that I just lost. The development of the sentient soul would also align with the soul's matrix transplant period from the end of seeding 1 into seeding 2, and then there's an additional soul alteration from seeding 2 into seeding 3, and that's Voyager's Volume 1, page 65. Seeding 3, even to a certain extent seeding 2, but particularly seeding 3 was very much an eclectic putting together things and modifying and shutting us down and making us basically really sleep. Pretty much the bulk of when we talk about the sleepers and the normies are basically the angelic human for the most part. Also, probably to some extent, the animal Melchizedeks, particularly a lot of the angelic human souls. that they're shut off. There's the net. They're shut off from their D4 on up. They're barely even connected most of the time to their D3. They're just, okay. Doesn't mean they don't have higher coding. It's just they're kind of shut down. And that makes them very vulnerable. And I've talked about this in previous Evolution of the Soul series of that. So I just want to add that in there. Okay. Latin anima, since again we're looking at sentient soul, so as well as the sentient physical form as well. The Latin anima sensitiva, SENSITIVA, the primal root soul connection to the physical earth body initiated during the Polarian period when the ancient sun, lunar, and earth were still united. Bit by bit, the sentient soul emerged as the soul seated within the primal or sensory perceptions of the physical, and at that time was a plant-like form, which was starting to take on more of a animal-like qualities. However, remember, keeping in mind with this, the physical form was still far from what it is now. Rarely can we travel in our minds back to this time, for there was no real form to embody like we have now. The consciousnesses were more of a collective group consciousness at this time. Much more pure, direct cognition of divine cosmic consciousness. So this is Rudolf Steiner. So I think in this reference, when you're talking about the Polarian and when the sun and the moon and the earth were together, which I'm talking about that too, right? That the earth would represent the Manu, the moon, the Ire, and the sun, the Mane, right, of the Trinity. And they were all one together. Okay. So probably the angelic. What was my point of saying that? That would be more of a time he's probably referencing the angelic human, because at that time there was not third seeding animal chieftain. Right. The Hebrew version of this, referenced as, I'm not even going to try to say it, RUACH, air, wind, where the etheric thinker is now embodied within the physical form. And Aisha talks about this a lot. Every steep esoteric spirituality talks about that air is life force, air is spirit. Okay. The sentient soul of primitive neural, so when you breathe, when you're stressed and you're out in the weeds and you're caught up in all the programs that are running around, when you stop and just breathe for breathing's sake, and just keep that breath of spirit automatically will eventually take you back into your body and into your internal eternal pillar, right? And then you can utilize whatever mechanics or spiritual discipline you're looking at. Okay. The sentient soul of primitive neural sentience has evolved a mind and brain that can hold the etheric thinker to interplay with divine cosmic Ah-yah A'ya spirit, directly bringing the cosmic I of the spirit self into the earthly realm of existence during the ancient lunar period. You can, and again, lunar is more of our Ire, passions and desires, and also tends to be kind of more attached to the astral realm. Again, passions and desires. And that was when we were going from plant consciousness to animal-like. More, actually, that plant and animal is way more highly evolved than the current 3D plants and animals we have here. Okay. The post-Atlantean epoch is developing the physical form to fully embody the spirit forces through the astral body, connecting with the interface of the sentient soul. The spirit and earthly bodies moved as one force during the Lemurian and Atlantean epoch. Towards the end of the Atlantean epoch, the spirit body could no longer be united with the earthly form as the physical form densified for both angelic human and animal Melchizedek. And Asia kind of talks about, can't remember exactly where, but I have a lot of shit in my head. You know, the Anahazi and some other, the name of the particular human, angelic human line, but or developed, or anyway, the beings that were able to stay, they were the organic, eternal beings, the type angelic type, higher evolved beings. When the earth became de-densified, they all had to leave. And that again was part of when the net had to be initiated. Okay. While Steiner talks as if this densification were a natural evolution, of course, I would say no. It was part of, I think it's part of interbreeding with fallen race lines and the alterations to the planet let's say this right, alterations to the planet and time matrix by the fallen angelics. And Aisha has a lot of different workshops she's over the many years had gone through deep, intricately with that mechanics, what that was, literally moving planets around. Crazy. It is what happened, and our guardian selves worked with what they had, again, with becoming densified, worked with what they had through the soul transplant mechanics I've referenced, initiation science, and the introduction of various energetic impulses to evolve the body in alignment with the soul, thereby developing both together. We are still in the process of this today. And Steiner well, he actually references more than that. The major ones, and I've talked about it before, and I'll be referencing it later again. The luciferic impulse and the harmonic were actually at a point, actually way long time ago, way long time ago. Actually, when they came in, actually was for a purpose to help out. And then, of course, have with the Keylonic science of Tanjiro mechanics, we have lots of activations, and we've got a lot of them going on in recent history and continuously right now. A lot going on right now. Okay. Now we'll finally focus on the post-Atlantean epoch itself, looking at the Indian era. During the post-Atlantean epoch of the Indian era, which began approximately, according to Steiner, 3,101 years ago. And this was after Atlantis fell. And there was a period of kind of rebalancing that occurred. And a lot of these certain cultures have moved away before Atlantis fell, but they kind of had a period of just them learning how to survive and develop. But once Atlantis fell and there's rebalancing, and then over time, they really developed up what was, besides being just small little tribes working for spiritual development, this was the era itself. So 3,101 years ago. It's got to be longer than that, but that's what I saw when I was looking at it. It was 3,101 years ago. I don't think it was 3,101 or BC. I think, although that would actually make more sense. I could have sworn though when I looked at it, it was years ago. But anyway, sorry. I off on a silly tangent. 3,101 years ago. The holy rishis, which I feel predominantly were angelic humans, maybe some of them were animal Melchizedeks, but predominantly I have a feeling they were probably angelic humans, were the great teachers of men. Culture was inspired primarily by the ether body. The soul forces working through the astral body developed the sentient soul to interface with the newly evolving densified earth form, allowing it to float above the body. This is Steiner. During the dream state, the sentient soul of the physical body could fully connect with the astral body, creating the dream state we experience now. During this period, the Mahabharata story was lived, not written, lived. This world was inhabited in a mystical, spiritual, and atavistic realm where seeing spirits was commonplace. The material world was seen as Maya or illusion, something immutable, not solid. The angelic human physical forms could more easily sustain on the surface of the earth during this period. I think there was, for sure, around the world, various angelic, well, there is 12 tribes around the earth. There are still many of them here today. But a lot of them, again, have a lot of animal chiefs that could in them as well. But just to be able to sustain and maintain on this earth plane, physical earth plane. Something else I was going to add, but I just spaced on what that was. Okay, the Persian era. So, again, Zarathustrian period in history, that would be considered the ancient Persian era. Ahura Mazda, part of that time period. The ancient Persian culture cultivated the astral body to develop a connection with the sentient physical body, senses, sensations. It was during the Zarathustra period that of evolution, during that time period, of that epoch that was, or not epoch, era that it's known for the development, is the time of scales and measures, of time views. The duality encompassed light and dark, positive and negative, good and evil, and right and wrong programs that were previously unheard of. Believe it or not. I know we think today polarity consciousness is the norm, but it wasn't always that way when we were more balanced between our Ire, Mani, and Manu. Okay. The incarnate Zarathustra was what? I thought initially at first, when I first started studying this information, I thought he was maybe a highly evolved angelic human, but the more I studied Steiner's work and how he interplayed the Zarathustra souls throughout the different evolutionary eras and how I know what they were involved with, I'm like, oh, no. I think the incarnate Zarathustra was likely an exemplary, I have to give him that, representation of a highly evolved animal Melchizedek. Thank you. Right? There is an animal Melchizedek we can be proud of. He might have also had maybe, I'm sure he had a mixture of some angelic human, might even had a certain amount of Anunnaki lineage in him as well. But I have a feeling he was predominantly probably animal Melchizedek. The Chaldean Egyptian era. So that would be the height of the anyway, when we think of Egypt and all those different kings and what that word is, anyway, when we talk about all those different dynasties and all that and their gods and how well they were really working with their gods, the Egyptian Chaldean era. So at the height of the sentient, so this was at the height of the sentient soul, tended to focus more on life between death and rebirth. Man could see the everlasting secrets within the rivers of the sea of the skies. Astrology was an expression of living beings, not as innate forces of today's materialistic world. The angelic human form was seen less. But, again, sort of stressing, certain tribal clans around the world, even to this day, were able to maintain surface life. Although again, I would still say there's probably still a certain amount of angelic human in them, certain amount of animal Melchizedek in them. And it's interesting because when Steiner talks about the development of the human body, he talks about, first example, how the head shaped is our harmonic. And again, the way our bodies are now are not, I think, normally what an angelic human's body would be. I think it's to fit this time matrix, to fit this density plane. So I have a feeling I've had visions of like having more arms. I mean, just all kinds of different variations that today would just weird people out to no end. But anyway, all right. So next we go, and again, I've gone over through when I did this, going over the cycles in the past. You can see evolution of the soul too, going through these eras before that too. So we're just kind of going through it again, but looking in terms of the evolution specifically of these type areas of the soul. The Greco-Latin era, which was when we were able to develop into the intellectual soul or mind soul. And keeping in mind, we still have aspects of the sentient soul that didn't go away but we were just able to evolve more into, but still having aspects of the sentient soul, but now we expanded more into the intellectual soul or mind soul. So the eternal I, thinker, broods lethargically within the sentient soul until it works its way into expressing as the intellectual soul or mind soul. We found that the sentient soul was unable to absorb ideas from the outside. We found we must let them pour in from the spiritual world. Thought to my anyway. Stuff coming in from the outside of the spiritual ideas had to pour in from the spiritual world. From there, they can be then worked upon. From there, they can then work upon them from the intellectual soul. Man now looked towards the earth for answers instead of the stars. Okay, what's the big? Before that, much more spiritual, much more, connecting into spiritual life, spiritual aspects, atavistic. Greek development as the intellectual soul, mind soul was very much a big, and that's also during that era when Christ consciousness was able to come in. Yeah, so yeah, man now looked towards the earth for answers instead of the stars. And really that's where most of the gods, right? The Greek gods were far closer to the earth than the previous eras, where humans lived more in spirit realm. Previously, repeating myself again, where humans lived more in the spirit realm than the earthly realm. It may also be a reflection of the integration, again, of the Draco god lines. I would probably the bulk of the Greek gods were of Anu, Draco descent. Entirely sure about that, but the more recent work of Ah-yah from the Voyagers, I should say, the recent work, Ah-yah has referenced it as such. Okay. Again, it doesn't make these Greek gods evil or bad. It's just that perhaps they are limited in their perception and not fully following the teachings of the law of one. Hence, my essence of the law of one perspective that I've talked about over and over again. We have no real idea what those teachings actually are from our current Earth history. Helonic science teachings were our first introduction back because there was a time when chaotic science was the norm, back to understanding what the law of one truly means. The current Germanic Anglo-American era of the consciousness soul. Okay? We are now dealing with the consciousness soul. Again, the others are there too, but we now have the consciousness soul. The development of the concept of the consciousness soul began around 1413 AD with consciousness as the key concept. Humans now possess the capacity for independent reflection. The ability for abstract thinking arose with the mechanic. I didn't have to, the first time I was saying it outside. Copernican and Galilean era. We are in a time of self-awareness or self-consciousness. In previous epochs, we had to look to the gods, gurus, stars, or Earth itself for answers. Now, we have within us the answers from the development of the previous periods. We are accessing the knowledge within our own cellular blood, bone, and star lineages that had been trapped before. Kind of loosening that net a little bit. But, and I've been talking about this too, so to reiterate it again, the negative aspect of this development is the potential to become lost in abstract materialism. Abstract Luciferic critical theory is not grounded in. If I can get this to happen. Sorry about that. Okay. Right. I'll just repeat what I just said. The negative aspect of this development is the potential to become lost in abstract materialism. Abstract Luciferic critical theory is not grounded in objective truth. It's not. Nor is it grounded in spiritual science. Abstract materialism is grounded in Ahrimanic scientific materialism, a lifeless AI transhumanist world that will lead to the Phantom Matrix. And Steiner in his own talked a great deal about it. Yesh in her own way talks about it. Gigi Young in her way, she definitely talks about it. And I don't have it written down, but I feel like I don't think I talked about it later. Objective truth in critical theory, or just critical theory. And this again, Steiner didn't, I don't recall him ever using the term critical theory, but he talked about the danger in this particular era of getting too caught up. He called it dead thoughts. The abstract thinking is really dead thoughts. They're not great. They're just more up here. Okay. This more up here in the kind of Luciferic realm of the astral plane, right? The spirit realm. It's great to get the ideas from here, but one of the dangers of the Luciferic impulse or program is it keeps you up here, which there were periods in ancient history when we were more aligned up there that we could, through certain types of initiation science training, we could hold our groundedness of our stability of ourself enough to draw in ancient esoteric or ancient, highly spiritual, atavistic, we'll just say spiritual. There's another word for it. I'm totally spacing it. We could bring it through as the higher font. We could bring it through and then teach our students, our initiates, your teachers, and initiates. And just all kinds of stuff that the hierophant was doing back in the day. When we interfaced and developed, particularly in the Greco-Roman of the intellectual soul or mind soul, there was an interfacing of the the etheric body with the physical body, and just a shutting off and disconnection that could not do that anymore. But when we get pulled up now, we just get lost because the interface is just not the way it was before. So just really kind of why I stress why Luciferic impulse is not good. But it is part of the development of the intellect back in the day, back during Lemuria, when the Luciferic impulse, or at least what Steiner references as the Luciferic, or initiation science, I should say, refers as the Luciferic impulse, was the introduction of the ability to question, the very, very root beginnings of developing and evolving the intellect. The I, be able to think for oneself, to make choices, to not just follow divine, any spirit consciousness that comes in, have discernment abilities to pick and choose, to become basically the freedom spirit. So, all right. Abstract materialism, and then, okay, I think I read the whole thing. And I've talked about the Ahrimanic end of things too. Just basically another word for the most part of saying Satan. Is the Ahrimanic forces, which again had its organic root, and I think it's connected to something called the Ah-yah, but I think it's part of the Ah-yah that went reversed and compromised in this time matrix. But because there's a lot of that goes on with the Ahrimanic forces that I've talked about in the past. Okay, so but when we get caught up in those old forces, that especially when people think Atlantis was so cool and they want to bring back all of that technology and all of what was going on with that, which was fine for that era, but bringing it in now, it's decadent, it's compromised, it's no longer functioning in our realm. So all it will bring, if we try to bring those forces in, because there's a lot of weird shit that was going on in Atlantis, a lot of mad scientists creating all kinds of crazy shit that just ties right into the transhumanist, artificial intelligence transhumanist world. That really will lead us back into the Phantom Matrix. That was stuff going on in Atlantis during that time with the Phantom Matrix entities that Gigi Young does an excellent job at explaining, actually. Okay. We are living out this duality right now. Again, of actually being organic versus inorganic. So we're living out the duality of the inorganic and the organic. Technology is wonderful. You know, as I type this up, I'm talking to y'all right now. You know, it's awesome. It's great. I wouldn't have a business without technology. Excuse me again, hold on. Okay. I think it's wonderful. I wouldn't have a business without technology, without the internet, because of what I do is something that's not mainstream, not the norm. So I have to be able to expand out and connect with people around the world to connect in. And also, if we're going to compete in the galaxy as a whole, or the universe, we need to develop advanced technology. That's one of the things that's holding us back is not being able to have that intellectual advancement to see what the world and do certain things and travel and do things. Not that we also need to have advanced technology of our spiritual development, but we also need the technology as well. However, it doesn't mean giving our power over to technology as being better than humanity. The opposite. But it does give us support of certain things. We must keep it close, and there will be a point if we don't give our power away to technology, we develop our advanced technology as spiritual beings. That's really the ultimate in being able to be intergalactic, to tell you the truth. That's the more important thing. But technology, current technological advancements will help us with connecting with certain other technically advanced off-world beings. We must keep a close eye on what is healthy and what is not for humanity. In that 10-year thing that was trying to get past funky wonky dunky doodle, I'm not questioning technology, funky wonk, bad. Anyway, we must be conscientious to keep the spirit within everything we do, because that's what needs to be the one that advances, the spirit aspect, and then the other advances can come underneath it. But spiritual advancement first and foremost. Many civilizations have been destroyed by the mindless development of technology. Remember Maldak, for those that understand that. Maldak, it is now the asteroid belt that goes around basically around us, our planetary structure. That was actually a planet. It was actually it was actually in the position that Earth is now. So it actually held the energetic quantum that the Earth is holding now, or what it was supposed to be anyway. So again, part of the modification of our Ecka-Veca system that holds a Cathara grid type structure. And I will eventually probably go into that. That would be actually more of a class. Okay. I'm probably going to repeat something that I already read, but anyway, we must be conscientious to keep the spirit within everything we do. Many civilizations, okay, that was where I said Maldak. Now the asteroid. Never give your love, power, and decision-making abilities to artificial intelligence. Totally no. Totally. Dumbass, stupid. Don't fall in love and marry a bot. Come on, guys. Grow up, man. Grow up. And that TP, whatever the hell is chat thing. Really careful with that. Be really careful with that. Because whatever is connected to that, whatever people or humans, or maybe not humans that are attached to that, they're wanting to get a control over humanity at some level and over you. And they want the AI intelligence, artificial intelligence grows from whatever you feed it. And just spooky shit. I'm sorry. All right. Next section. The sentient, intellectual, and conscientious souls are evolving into the intuition, inspirational, and imagination souls. That's what we're looking at in the remainder of this particular era, because we're not done with our current era. We actually have, I think, 2,000, at least 1,000 years, I think, before we go into the next. Right, no. I'm spacing on this. Might be the next epoch. Anyway, I think there's 2 more eras in this in this epoch before we go into the next epoch. Yeah. Anyway, but we'll be working on developing our intuition, inspirational, and imagination souls. Okay, so the intuition soul, and we're doing that now. They're starting, it's a bit of it's coming out but I wouldn't say they're fully fledged developed. I think they're just kind of getting nuances of it. So, for instance, so the intuition soul, so when the sentient soul transforms its inner impulses of passions and emotions or desires of the astral body into intuitive expressions, one is then able to intuit the inner moral values of the higher spiritual world. So we're developing our intuition abilities. Well, we've always had the intuitive abilities, but developing it to that point, we're really still working on. The inspirational soul. When the intellectual soul has to evolve to the point where it sees accomplishment not just from an egocentric perspective, had to have that period of that egocentric development to develop the I, the intellect, the abstract thinking perspective. But then we're going to be evolving more and more into seeing from the larger moral cultural worldview as the instrument of the human etheric D3 body. Okay. We're kind of there a little bit here and there, but for the most part of humanity as a whole, don't think so, especially when we're still dependent on something outside ourselves, marrying bots, using AI as your guru. There's people doing that. I mean, real grow up, y'all. Just grow up. Ah! Anyway, all right. Imagination soul. And what's frustrating is that's really been the whole holdout is humanity's not grown enough. Humanity's not evolved enough. Blah, blah, blah. We can't have the aliens coming in, blah, 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 because we'll freak out because we're not mature enough. I'm kind of getting to the point that there's just going to be that portion of the population that's just not going to get in. Steiner actually talks about that. He says in every epoch, there's usually only really a small number of people that are able to awaken and evolve developmentally into the next era or epoch. And there's a lot of them that just stay in the old epoch or old era and just become more decadent and decadent and decadent until they just get really deformed and just either die off or become something really weird. Like, for instance, in the Lemurian era or epoch, you have I think a lot of the apes or orangutans. I think it's apes. Some of those apes, at any rate, some of those lines were actually from the Lemurian era. They just couldn't make it to the next epoch, and there's some other stuff that occurred, obviously Lemurian, that I think I've talked about in other times. Okay, I'm sorry, another little tangent. This is going to be a very long one. I'm sorry. All right, we're getting close. Imagination soul. The consciousness soul, where we're at now, whose ego has evolved enough to become aware of the moral art and beauty of spirit through the senses of the physical body. Imagination is the underlying premise upon which the eternal thinker creates. The soul life lives within the paradise imagination before incarnating. One has to pass the guardian of the threshold to enter back into this space. We are at a deeper level of making spirit flesh, basically. And again, it's a lot of Steiner. This is Steiner information, obviously. So, yeah, we're really going to have to learn what that one is because we're not there yet. In the evolution of the human soul, the I initially undergoes a slight transformation in the physical appearance of the body. Again, plant, animal-like, to where we're at now, we're going to transform even more. And each different, he talks about the different angels and the different archangels, and how these different angels come in at different eras or times and carry certain impulses of development for humanity. And they affect, I think initially, again, it probably affected more of the formation of the body, but then as we've been zoning in on this intellect and development of the brain spirit connection, it's been more like, he talks about the organ being developed here and just different parts of the brain over time to be able to transition to these different more evolved soul developments of the body, spirit, mind connection. Or actually, he likes to talk about the physical body, etheric body, and etheric body, astral body, the spirit body, or astral's the soul. So physical, etheric, soul, spirit. And he goes in depth over that too. I don't know if I'm going to do all that, but how important that is, but that's huge. So there are individual members of the physical body that become increasingly alive and we talked about that. Ordinarily in development, only the entire human physical body appears as a living entity, which I think that was earlier epochs. The current animal Melchizedek / angelic human form we have now will transform into an entirely different physical form as we evolve out of the current density light body matrix into, but okay, this is, I should have said a note on this one. Again, I really feel the current stellar activation cycle, SAC, according to Asia, are the guardians, which I feel is true. And when I look at it intuitively with my inner vision, that matrix of our current Ecka-Veca system, again, is reversed. It's compromised. That stellar activation cycle, I think it's 2009, started to run on a reverse. So a lot of people, again, I've talked about this before, when they're talking about going into the D5, it may or may not be the real D5. It could be the reverse D5. And that could be a new Earth that way, which isn't really a healthy one. But anyway, with the current KDDL material, which started before that, but really got involved with it with the KDDL material, we're working in what I like to call the bypass system, which talks about the integral bridge, crystal bridgeway, 7 bridges flows. We're connecting to something called the deity planes, more spirit body connection, the bypass system. But you have to create a whole new light body structure. You're not just going to transition from this current density one into a spirit. You can't. You have to go through all those different levels of the 12-stranded angelic human, or 12-stranded being that we are. So we're moving into a light body matrix into the deity light body of New Earth, which also interfaces when I talk about A'ya Earth. And Aurora Earth is part of that. There's more of an interface here with Aurora Earth because that merged the Net Earth and Ascension Median Earth together. That's what we're really kind of embodying right now. And Aurora Earth, or A'ya Earth, is a consciousness field that holds that into place right now because of all the distortion. And in that holding, that's kind of also part of the bypass system, and just we're going to evolving into a whole new system. All right, in summary, in summary, I don't even want to look at the time. Okay, but I've enjoyed the time talking here with you. And yeah, and I look forward to, as usual, I would really appreciate any feedback, any comments, anything that I missed. I mean, I'm not the only one that gets into anthroposophy and initiation science, as well as, you know, with the Chelonic science, what I could have added, or just your own thoughts with it, would be really awesome. Would be really appreciated. As well as any ideas for future topics that you would like me to talk about, please, by all means, you know, and I would have fun, you know, researching and studying and putting it together. All right, in summary, as Ah-yah A'ya God Source First Eternal, you, me, we, us, they, it, capital I, capital T, we can never get it wrong because we never get it done. We are forever within the eternal now of the Manu Zero point of creation, the 13th pillar, expanding and evolving as Adoshi adepts within the in-breath and out-breath of creation. Currently, we are Humpty Dumpty, putting our pieces back together again to grow into a new freedom spirit. When we look back at history, we must do so through the lens of an evolutionary perspective, not from our current materialistic and abstract thinking. That's when you get ancient alien stuff going. Maybe there's sometimes was, but maybe it really was. The technology really was angelic human technology. We need to understand that who we are now is in no way a finished product by any means. We are continually receiving new waves of impulses of eternal spirit activation, which come in to evolve and expand us. We are collaborating with our eternal multidimensional clan families to co-create a new Earth reality that transcends the current comprised time matrix. Please reference the previous evolutions of the Soul series for more details. And I recommend recommend the KDDL 1 through 3 online workshop series to learn more about the Tantra of Earth spirit body mechanics by, again, by Ray's production Alicia. I also invite everybody to, oops. Oh. Sorry. I just got a message that I thought I hit it and got me back again. Okay. Let's try this again. I also invite you to explore our Harmonizing Journey to Realignment seminars, sessions, and HDR Grid Keepers community. We utilize the new material with the sliders material, which is also from Oray's Productions and Azurite Press originally, to actively make conscious contact with your eternal clan family. From this connection, you can clear the barriers to be able to personally develop your new Earth of rare Earth / Aurora Earth world. Whether you can transition in your current body or create your next form, you are taking the reins to evolve your current and future personal planetary morphogenic template structure to the next evolutionary stage of development. HDR private sessions. Sorry. I can do this, I know I can. Okay. Right. Harmonizing Journey to Realignment utilizes Keelanta and Tantra mechanics. Both sciences are the original organic first creation mechanics. The mechanics work with the organic light body and plasma spirit body structure to bring you back to your organic first creation mechanics of the eternal domain of the all that is. This technology realigns the artificial finite second creation Fibonacci 2 torus net earth program with its natural perpetually renewing organic ascension new earth expression. You first do everybody, particularly the new people that's new. People who will be working with me don't have to, but the new people coming in, they're first going to do the HDR introductory session, and then you are on your way to exploring who you are as the all that is, God Source First Eternal, Ah-yah A'ya Yumi, we, us, they, capital I, capital T, it, at your own pace. We start out working in the Ureta crystal caverns, clearing programs, keeping you stuck. Then you can connect with the Rainbow Pillar Bridge to the Ureta zone to perform soul retrieval work. Next, you make your way into Urea Earth, to set up your temple pot space from as well as your double. From there, you are connecting to even deeper aspects of your multidimensionality to explore. This is a 2-hour introductory session at $100. HDR private sessions, ongoing sessions, is $50 per hour. An average session typically lasts between 1 and 2 hours, depending upon your individual needs. HDR Grid, and then next, HDR Grid Keepers Community Membership Program. And again, there'll be links for all these in the description. For those who are either new to HDR or advanced HDR clients, this community offers a small, private, safe, and supportive environment where you can study and apply the Keelanta and Tantra mechanics of manifestation to create your own personal planetary energetic field template. There's always just something powerful in the individual private sessions. There's always something about the group together, the shield that it creates, the dynamics with that. It's just expands things even more. We meet twice. Well, we meet twice a month for a group journey, and once a month for a group discussion. We are currently discussing the HDR Grid Keepers Handbook, so that gets a lot into a wide variety of topics. And this, when you add it all together, $250 value, only charging $10 a month. Or if you'd like to do more of a discount and do the $112 a year. Also included is in this, if you become a member, or when you become a member, is a 30% discount on a two-hour private HDR session for members. And I hope to see you soon. Yeah. Okay. And now we're going to look at the Waking in Alania book series. I don't talk about in detail too much too often. I'm going to spend a minute or two here. So while this story appears to be a typical science fiction tale, it was actually a piece of Earth's ancient hidden history. Much of the past I had remembered through my affiliation with the freedom teachings of Keelantic science. The rest was through the characters' lives in the story shared through me. Kara, Eshwa, Ganado, Prince Kaldor, Unifana, and even General Damien all have a place in my heart. I was glad I could get their story down on paper. These books were a long time in the making. It's still up. I'm on my third one right now. I started them in 2006 while I was living in New Mexico. A friend on Black Unicorn felt that I should be a storyteller of Keelanta Keylontic science. The study, again, of light, sound, base codes of matter, multidimensionality, and creation mechanics. Quite a mouthful, just saying that alone, right? Is it not? Well, needless to say, it has been challenging for most people to grasp the technical information involved. Technical. I hope this would, but to do harmonizing generation realignment, you don't need to know all the technicalities unless you want to. But I do go over some stuff that is helpful to really embrace and utilize this information. I hope these books gives you the heart and meaning of Keylontic science, which is how to live by the law of one, of the oneness that I refer so intensely in these books. In fact, it is a prime example of how all species can live a whole and complete life. I hope you enjoy reading it as much as I enjoyed writing them. May you be your full oneness self, co-creating with the elements of life form. Hey, please like and share this post. Also looking forward to stressing again, also looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the Evolution of the Soul series. Whether you're new, this is the first one you listened to. Again, we've got 7 others. Very much good information. I really look forward to hearing your thoughts and ideas. And again, ideas on more topics. Please subscribe to Harmonizing Journey. The blog post website would be awesome, and or with YouTube. Donations are always appreciated. Be a link for that. Much love and peace. Again, I think I said that. Adoshi, in case I can say that earlier. The HR Navigator to help navigator, helping others to connect with their multidimensional plan family. And I will have in the description, YouTube description, the link for Arrayus.com for the KDDL, as well as the Voyager book series. I also have a link for the Rudolf Steiner archives.org. So it's well worth the investment. And also there'll be a link at the end of this for the Evolution of the Soul series playlist. So you can save that and start going through that material. And I'm so excited. I'm really looking forward to hearing you guys, what you have to say, as well as looking forward to meeting you guys for sessions. For you to develop that personal conscious contact, making that connection, learning about the science of who you are as the all it is. So that's it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm forgetting. Next week, not this coming, what's today? Yeah, next Tuesday, not this Tuesday, we'll have our next bi-weekly HGR journey, Keeper's journey. So hopefully there'll be new people coming in. You'll be coming in for that. And okay. Oh, well, yeah, this has gone long. This has gone way too long. Okay. Thank you. Love you. Bye. I just keep talking and talking. Thank you. Bye.